Namaskar. Welcome to Uday India Digital Forum. Today in Right Angle, I like to share with you my thoughts on one of the big issues that is these days in the headlines, and that is this controversy around Adani, the Indian businessman Adani. But I am not going to discuss the specific points or in details about what Adani firms or institutions or organizations stand for. I am not going into that economic part of it, whether that is true or not. I will not go into it. I am just seeing this Adani scam, the so-called Adani scam, as the part of a trend. And in my considered view, this trend is nothing new. This is an ongoing trend that started soon after Mr. Narendra Modi became the Prime Minister of this country. And this trend had many milestones, but I will be particularly highlighting 3 milestones of this trend, and I include this so-called Adani scam as one milestone of this particular trend. And I'll try to argue that these trends have got some remarkable similarities. So what are these 3 milestones? In my considered view, I'll say that one milestone was this so-called controversy around Rafale. The second one was this so-called controversy about this Pegasus spyware. And third thing is this Adani. And if you see little closely, you will discover that there are 4 points where the actors are, or the I will not say actors alone, actors as well as the environment were more or less similar. What are they? This Rafale controversy started sometime in 2018 and it continued up to 2019. That time, it was the election time, in the sense that the country went for general elections in 2019, and this scam surfaced. You mark the timing, so that whatever will emerge out of it could influence the electoral outcome. I think that was the strategy behind those people who uncovered, quote unquote, this so-called scam. Similarly, that Pegasus thing, it perhaps again this controversy started sometime in 2021. And then it really blew sometime into 2022. That time there are no general elections, but there are some very important state elections, like Uttar Pradesh, and which is actually a mini India. And it's so happened that everybody was talking about it, particularly the people who again quote unquote uncovered this scam. And that could have affected, their intention was that it would affect perhaps the Uttar Pradesh electoral outcome. And this time, as you see, this scam has surfaced last month. But you see again the timing. It may not be general elections, but the country is having a series of elections right now in the Northeast. And if this scam further gains momentum, then it may affect, perhaps, that is what again those people who are quote unquote uncovering this scam, they think perhaps it will affect the electoral outcomes towards the end of this year also in three important states of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, which is actually a semi-final before next year's general elections. So these are the two features. The third feature is this, and you'll be surprised to know where actually it surfaced from. That Rafale thing surfaced through a very small, tiny publication in France. I exactly don't remember it. I think Citizen. I exactly don't remember the name of that in the paper. And the same thing happened also. Again, another very unknown tabloid. I think it's not tabloid. I think the digital paper. When this Pegasus thing came up, and this time it has not come through those small papers, but it came through the investigation of this so-called Hindenburg foundation or that research thing, that. But anyway, this is not a research foundation. It is one particular individual who is essentially buys and sells shares. But the important thing is that it came through him, and all three of them, whether those two papers that I mentioned, who were behind that Rafale thing and Pegasus thing, and this gentleman, they all have been supported by, supported financially, heavily. Remember this Hindenburg thing, for uncovering so-called Adani scam, spent $2 million in a so-called research. It involved a lot of money, and the money essentially was being supplied or financed by a gentleman called George Soros, whose statement on Modi and India are too well known to all of you, and I need not say much about him. But the point is, whether that paper in France or those two small papers in France or this gentleman, they all have been financed by Soros. You see, the third very common interesting point. And the fourth interesting point is this: the leader in this campaign here in India, after this so-called controversy began, the captain or the general or the main person who really fought the war or is fighting the war at this moment happens to be one gentleman, and his name is Rahul Gandhi. So that's why I said that I see it as a trend, not exactly a singular incident of this Adani Hindenburg thing. So what exactly this trend is? This is what I really wanted to focus on. Now we'll see if this is the trend, what precisely happened. And as you know, unfortunately for Mr. Rahul Gandhi, they didn't click, and in fact it boomeranged on him. Rafale thing, they all became so happy, so excited when the matter went to the Supreme Court. But 2019, everything got the government got a clean sheet, in the sense that they say that the process of acquiring these 36 Rafale aircraft was absolutely fine, and it was the government to government. There is no scope for any such corruption or scandal. The Supreme Court nailed it. Pegasus, you all might have seen, again the Supreme Court took it up, and these people thought that it's a big victory, the court is taking care of it. But precisely what happened? The court then formed a committee, and that committee investigated, and ironically, and this is the most ludicrous or laughable aspect of it, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, who said that his phone was hacked, he refused to give his mobile phone to this technological commission or technical commission, which was supposed to investigate whether Modi was tapping the information or talks of these phones for examination. You say that my phone is being hacked, and when the commission asks, kindly give your phone, we'll examine whether it was being hacked or not. And that commission is regulated by the Supreme Court. The government didn't have any role in that, and you refuse to even give that. And what precisely happened? That commission said there is no conclusive evidence that there was any systematic or attempt on the part of the government to do that. Similarly, this time, whether Adani really was helped by his friend Modi, that also remains to be seen. You have already gone to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, I don't think is going to look into it, because if the Supreme Court, because this is strictly, they are talking of setting up a commission which will advise in future whether how to safeguard the interest of the investors, particularly those who deal with the shares. But that is something else. Of course, one can debate and argue whether the Supreme Court actually should interfere in this matter, because there will be a problem for the Supreme Court too, in the sense that that when these cryptocurrencies where people had invested so much, and they initially gained money, later lost lots of provision. The Reserve Bank of India wanted to regulate it. Somebody went to the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said that nothing doing, you can't really interfere in this, because this is not the government job. Somebody is buying a share, he is investing, how he does it is strictly a private affair. But in this sense, how they are going to prove that Adani did something wrong, because even if his shares are down, the whole point is that they say that he has taken lots of loan from the bank, which is not also true. I don't think he has taken any loan worth more than 1% or 2% from any Indian in the bank. And then the LIC has invested or bought many shares, but even, and his shares value have come down. But now even if LIC sells those shares, still LIC will make a profit of 2,000 crore. So no Indian has lost any money. The point that I am trying to prove is this: that way I will conclude, when I am talking about these trends, there is that foreign intervention angle that the government was saying, and people were ridiculing it. Oh, India is not that, it's a big country, and these conspiracy theories, it will not work. I think this is all ridiculous. I think there is one, because whether in Pegasus or in Rafale, there is a systematic attempt to adversely affect India's growing ties with France and Israel. Similarly, in this case, Adani, he is only one of those rare Indian companies who is trying to have a global presence. He is trying to invest, or he has invested money everywhere, whether Australia, Indonesia, Netherlands, and even in the US. That definitely is going to be adversely affected by creating this sort of scam. And in that sense, though it is also going to adversely affect some sort of this India's soft power. Indian government may not be playing a very direct role in it, but when the Indians do very well in their respective sectors, whether in sports, whether in business, then what happens is that a country's soft power gains momentum. So this also is an attempt to adversely affect this or arrest this momentum of India's soft power. So in that sense, this foreign angle, that conspiracy angle, is very much relevant in my considered view. But as I said, if one is talking of a trend, the previous be it Pegasus or for that matter Rafale scam, they boomeranged. Congress did not gain anything electorally, and I doubt whether they will be gaining by creating unnecessarily this Adani scam. Thank you.